Philadelphia in the 1700s did not rise in a single stroke of vision. It emerged block by block, decision by decision, less like a monument and more like a conversation carried on over decades between merchants and ministers, printers and porters, enslaved laborers and immigrant artisans. This was a city where ideas moved as freely as cargo, down cobblestone alleys still soft with mud, to the open doors of coffee houses thick with pipe smoke, across the worn benches of meeting halls where men argued not just about taxes, but about what justice might look like in a world still being written. Using advanced Reconstruction grounded in period maps, architectural surveys, ship manifests, tax records, and first-hand accounts, we can now move beyond static images into spaces where light, sound, and human presence are restored with care, not to reimagine history as drama, but to re-encounter it as place, as atmosphere, as a world that once breathed. Let's begin on Market Street, the city's main artery, its pulse, not grand by modern standards, but vital. Here, carts groan under sacks of grain and barrels of molasses. Horses sidestep puddles that lingered for days after rain. Pedestrians, some in homespun wool, others in tailored coats, navigate the same uneven path. Judges heading to the courthouse, children chasing hoops, enslaved workers carrying messages between households. To the left stood the brick courthouse, solid, symmetrical, unadorned. This wasn't a temple of law, but a workshop for it. Inside, deeds were signed, debts acknowledged, disputes settled over ink-stained tables. It was here that newcomers, fresh off ships from Ireland, Germany, or West Africa, first entered the city's legal memory, registering names, pledging oaths, staking fragile claims to belonging. Just north, the spire of Christ Church pierced the skyline, a quiet assertion of permanence in a city still assembling itself. Its bell marked hours, called the faithful, and on certain Sundays, tolled for those lost at sea. Market Street was more than commerce. It was where rumor became news, where pamphlets changed hands before they reached print, where a whispered argument about representation could, over time, harden into resolve. Change didn't arrive with fanfare here. It seeped in through open windows, over shared benches, in the space between one market day and the next. Now step back across the Delaware, from the New Jersey shore. Philadelphia in 1790 revealed itself not as a cluster of houses, but as a presence. The river, wide and tidal, glittered under shifting light, alive with motion. Schooners from the Caribbean unloaded sugar and rum. Flat-bottomed Durham boats pushed upriver with furs and flour. Smaller craft darted between them, oystermen, ferrymen, watermen balancing poles and oars with practiced ease. This waterway was the city's lifeline, not just for goods, but for people. A German family, clutching bundles, stepped ashore near the custom house. An enslaved man, sold in Charleston months before, stood on deck, scanning the unfamiliar skyline. A Quaker merchant reviewed invoices in his counting house, tallying shipments bound for London and Lisbon. The Delaware didn't just connect Philadelphia to the Atlantic world. It was the Atlantic world, compressed into one restless, working channel. Above the rooftops, church spires rose, not in competition, but in chorus. Christ Church, St. Peter's, the Swedish Gloria Day. Each spoke to a community, a language, a tradition. Together, they formed a skyline of pluralism, less unified by doctrine than by sheer necessity. Survival, trade, the daily labor coexistence. This was no provincial outpost. It was a city that knew its weight. Confident, yes, but not complacent. A place where prosperity carried responsibility and ambition carried risk. Now, turn to a quieter corner, the house at 7th and Market. To passers-by, it was unremarkable. Brick facade, 9/6 windows, a modest doorway. Yet in the summer of 1776, within its upstairs rooms, Thomas Jefferson sat at a portable desk, scratching out words that would outlive him by centuries. The air smelled of beeswax, ink, and the faint tang of river damp. Outside, life continued uninterrupted. A blacksmith's hammer rang. A milkmaid called her price. A cartwheel squeaked on uneven stone. No banners flew. No crowds gathered. Just a man, a draft, and the weight of an idea taking shape in silence. That tension between the monumental and the mundane is where history often lives, not in thunderclaps, but in the space between heartbeats, in the decision to write one more sentence, to sign one more name, to stay at the table when walking out would have been easier. Which brings us to the Pennsylvania State House. By 1776, the building was already familiar. Its red bricks softened by time, its steeple weathered but upright. Inside the assembly room, the air grew thick with debate. July heat pressed in through shuttered windows. Men in waistcoats loosened collars, passed handkerchiefs, argued late into the evening. Some feared treason, others feared hesitation. When the vote came, it was not unanimous. 12 colonies said yes. New York abstained, its delegates still awaiting instructions. The silence that followed was not triumphant. It was solemn, a point of no return crossed. Not with a cheer, but with a breath held, then released. 11 years later, many of those same men returned to the same room, the same worn chairs, for a different kind of reckoning. The war was won, but the peace? That was proving harder. The Constitutional Convention of 1787 was not a celebration. It was repair work. Delegates arrived weary, skeptical, divided. Small states feared erasure. Large ones feared chaos. Southern economies depended on slavery. Northern consciences strained against it. George Washington presided, not as an orator, but as an anchor. His presence steadied the room not through speeches, but through stillness. He rarely spoke, yet his silence carried weight. When tempers flared, he'd rise, adjust his spectacles, ask a quiet question, and the room would recalibrate. Behind closed doors, compromises were forged in real time. The 3/5 Clause, the Electoral College, the Senate's equal representation. Not ideals perfected, but tensions managed. Structures built to hold the fractures for a time. This wasn't theory. It was mechanics. The crafting of a machine meant to outlive its makers. And yet, for all the grand debates, the city's daily life continued elsewhere. At the Philadelphia Almshouse, relocated in 1767 to the city's edge, hundreds lived under strict routine. The poor, the infirm, the elderly, and orphan children shared dormitories. Days began at dawn, scrubbing floors, spinning wool, mending linens. Meals were simple, privacy minimal. The institution reflected a worldview where charity and control were inseparable, where relief came with expectation and dignity was conditional. A short walk away stood the London Coffee House. Less cafe, more nerve center. Inside, ship captains traded gossip with merchants over steaming bowls. Auctioneers stood on benches, calling bids on dry goods, livestock, and human beings. The open lot beside it hosted public sales where families were separated, skills appraised, future sold. This, too, was part of the city's economy, unspoken in founding documents, yet foundational to its wealth. Nearby, the old courthouse hummed with quieter dramas, indentured servants seeking release, widows petitioning for property, immigrants swearing oaths. Law here wasn't abstract. It was a tool for protection, for exclusion, for redefining who belonged. And then there was a stone prison, erected in 1728, cold and unyielding. Its thick walls held debtors alongside thieves, the mentally ill alongside political dissenters. Windows were narrow, yards sparse. Punishment wasn't just about confinement. It was about visibility. This could be you. A reminder etched in stone. Liberty was not universal. It was negotiated, defended, often denied. Philadelphia in the 1700s was never just one thing. It was a city of contradictions. These reconstructed moments aren't about nostalgia. They're invitations to stand on Market Street and feel the mud beneath your boots, to sit in the State House gallery and hear the rustle of parchment, the creak of a chair, the pause before a signature. To remember, history isn't made in hindsight. It's made by people who didn't yet know how the story would end. You like to step into? Tell us. We'll reconstruct it, not as myth, but as memory, as truth, carefully restored.